Hey guys, what is going on? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here, welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So I think it is time to do another video where I have a set of fragrances that in a certain scenario or situation, you might only need one spray. I've done this subject matter before. It was a while ago, I'll be honest, I did not go back and look and see what I had on that list. I did not see what stipulations I put on it, but I imagine they'll be the same here. For me, this is pretty much going to be in environments where you're working and you're in proximity to people, so you don't want to be too overbearing, but you still want to wear a scent that has a little bit of oomph to it. Or you're in a scenario where you just don't want to come off obnoxious with your scent. Maybe you're hanging around a lot of people in close quarters and they're not fragrance people, so you're not competing with them, so you don't need your scent to just be, blowing their noses off of their faces. That's the scenario I would put a one spray fragrance on, and it's primarily for scents that are strong. Otherwise, I would say you could use more than one spray or just use a fragrance that is weaker, but maybe I just want to wear a scent that has that strength to it and I don't want to be overbearing, so one spray would do. I do know I will not have a lot of the same fragrances I had on that previous video because many of the fragrances I have on today's list I have gotten after I shot that original video. So it should be a different list altogether for the most part. But anyways, I've got 8 of them, 8 fragrances that in a certain scenario, you only need one spray for it to work. Before we get started, as always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you do like this content, remember to hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new content. Let's get into it. Alright guys, first up, from the house of Mason Francis Kurkdjian, this is Amyris Homme Extrait de Parfum. Mason Francis Kurkdjian, Amyris Homme Extrait de Parfum. There is an eau de parfum version of this. I don't own it and I'm not familiar with it in that way, so I don't know if that would make this list, but this one definitely does. This is quite strong. This one has good projection and good sillage. So it's already one you don't really need to douse yourself heavily with. Trust me, I did it one time and I was choking myself out, and it was an open event. It was kind of a gala-like event. So, that is a scenario where even a strong scent, you can go a little bit heavier, but I still sprayed it way too much. I think I sprayed this like 8 to 10 times. It was way too much. I was choking myself out. But anyway, in a scenario where you don't want to be too overbearing, one spray of this would probably do. I'd probably just go one spray to the back of the neck. This is a fresher fragrance, does have a spiciness with cinnamon, and it is does have a sweetness to it as well. I think there's tonka bean and vanilla in this, but it's an amyris focused scent, which amyris on its own tends to have kind of a woody balsamic feel to it. But there's a lot of other things in here that lend to this fragrance being very nice, very fresh, very people-pleasing. Also some iris in here, giving it another fresh aspect as well. But it is a powerful scent, so one spray will do in a scenario where you don't want to be too overbearing. So once again, from Mason Francis Kurkdjian, Amyris Homme Extrait de Parfum. All right, next one, coming from the house of Mansera, this is Hindu Kush. Mansera, Hindu Kush. I can't remember exactly, but I think this might have been the fragrance that inspired me to do this subject matter again. I wore this a few days ago, and I just got the fragrance in like right at the end of last year, and I haven't worn it yet. So I was like, okay, finally I get a chance to wearing this. And I think I did like 2 sprays on my wrist, and then I did one later on the back of my neck. Fragrance was projecting very nicely. I would say this is one you don't really need a ton of sprays. Overwhelmingly a woody scent, has some spiciness to it. There is a cannabis accord in here. I would say even with that, you're not gonna smell like you just smoked a blunt, in my opinion. It's more of just the green, kind of green pungent aspects in there, but it's not super forward. I've smelled other fragrances that tout a cannabis note that's way stronger than what this has. But yeah, overwhelmingly spicy, woody green. It's quite pleasant. Has this nice, just kind of resinous-like sweetness kind of sitting in the background there that just kind of lifts it up a little bit, makes it not too earthy, if you will. But this fragrance packs a punch, as do a lot of Mansera, so that really shouldn't be a surprise. And in a certain scenario, one spray of this might be just enough. Obviously for work, I would say really be careful. Maybe somebody else's nose that's not as used to fragrances can really pick out that cannabis. They may think you've been smoking, so keep that in mind. But if I were gonna do it, I would spray it like underneath my shirt or something like that, because this one projects very nicely. But I do think in a certain scenario, one spray of this would be more than enough. Once again, this is Mansera, Hindu Kush. Okay, next one is from Rouge Le Parfums, and this is Creation E Parfum. Rouge Le Parfum's Creation E Parfum or Enigma, depending on where you got your bottle from. Now this one here is an interesting choice for this list because remember I put the stipulation that most of the time this may be being worn for work or just in a situation where you just don't want to be too overbearing even if you're hanging out with people, but you're not like in a public place where there's a lot of competing smells. Interestingly enough about this one, I would kind of want to wear that in a scenario where it's more outgoing and evening oriented. But let's just say I really want to wear the scent, I would just go one spray with it. It's a spicy and sweet scent, has a cola vibe to it, very tobacco oriented as well, very complex fragrance. From a work scenario, it definitely does not fit the vibe of working in an environment where you don't want to be overbearing. But again, let's just say I'm in a situation where I just really want to wear it. I would just go one spray just to be safe. The projection on this one is not massive, but it's definitely there and very nice sillage. So if you don't want to, fill up a room, but you want people to still pick it up, they'll pick it up with one spray of this. Once again, from the house of Rouge Le Parfums, this is Creation E Parfum. All right, next up, we got one from the house of Xerjoff, and this is 40 Knots. Xerjoff's 40 Knots. I just remembered this fragrance inspired this video because last week when I was out traveling for work, this is the only fragrance I bought, so I was wearing this daily. And I already know this fragrance has really good projection, really good sillage. The scent in and of itself is not, offensive in any way, but it's not your typical fragrance either. So, it could come off kind of strong maybe to someone who's not used to smelling a lot of fragrances. So I only went one spray with this on the back of the neck. Let's just say I was picking it up very easily. People definitely were smelling me when I was at work. But I'm pretty sure it just wasn't too strong, so it wasn't causing any problems, or at least nobody said anything. But what's really interesting is I had very bad allergies at the beginning of last week while I was working, and I really just shouldn't have sprayed this at all because this was triggering it. But I figured, hey, I'll spray it on the back of my neck. It shouldn't be too strong. And I was wrong. It kept messing with me, so I really just shouldn't have sprayed it at all. But this is what inspired that video, because even on the back of my neck, away from my nose, projecting away from my body instead of coming towards it, like, spraying it underneath my neck or something like that, I was still picking it up very easily, especially for the first 4 hours or so. So one spray of this in the right scenario could be more than enough. Once again, from the house of Xerjoff, this is 40 Knots. All right, next one's coming from the house of Arabian Oud. This is Majestic Woody Intense. Majestic Woody Intense from Arabian Oud. So this one here, flanker to the original Majestic. I have featured that one a couple times on the channel. This one is a little bit sweeter, a little bit richer, a little bit more woody, obviously, woody intense. The oud, I think, is turned up in this one. As far as I can tell, though, the fragrance line is pretty much centered around the note of Divana, which has kind of a fruity, balsamic smell to it based on my research. And with the research and reading I've done about it, any scents that kind of feature Divana, I kind of picked that up. So I think that's the best way to describe it. But this one here is definitely a strong fragrance. It projects very nicely, leaves a very nice sillage, and it lasts all day long. I remember I came home from a very long day of work after having this on my skin for maybe it was 3 sprays at the most, and it was on my skin for a long time, and came home and my wife definitely picked it up and was like, that is some strong stuff. Did you just spray it? I'm like, no, this has been on me for hours, 8 hours or so. So strong scent here. Definitely one spray can work in an environment where you don't want to be overbearing. I think while I was at work, I sprayed it under my shirt. I didn't want to take any chances because while the smell I think is overall pleasant, does have that oud in it, does have that kind of oriental vibe that can certainly rub some people the wrong way, especially in an environment where you don't want to be too loud with your fragrance choice. So this one spray could be enough. Once again, from Arabian Oud, Majestic Woody Intense. Okay, next one. Coming from the house of Bond number 9, we have got NoMad. Bond number 9, NoMad. So this is if you are familiar with it, it's a fruity rose oud fragrance. More fruity and more rose oriented than anything, but it does pack a punch. That fruitiness definitely comes out very, very strong, and it is kind of a lively fruitiness to it. So you could almost say in some work environments, this just wouldn't be as appropriate. It may come off a little bit juvenile, but I guess that depends here or there. I mean, you kind of got to use a little bit of discernment with these fragrance choices. You don't want to get in trouble with your fragrance choice, but that's kind of the whole point of this video. If you don't want to, come off too strong, that's why you just do one spray and maybe you'll be just fine. That's certainly the case with this one. My wife wears this more than I do, and let's just say when she sprays this, man, you're talking about the scent just lingering in the air. This one has amazing sillage on it, which is why I think if you don't want to be too strong with the choice, one spray will do. She's in an environment where she's competing with a lot of smells, so she can go as heavy as she likes to. She tends to spray pretty heavy. And all I gotta say is, hey, people are smelling her with this fragrance on. So this one spray approved in my opinion, if that's what you need. Once again, from bond number 9, this is NoMad. All right, next one coming from the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is Male Le Parfum. Jean-Paul Gaultier, Male Le Parfum. I actually have not worn this one in a while. I'm gonna give it a spray. Probably gonna regret it because it does fill a room up once you spray it, which is pretty much my point. Obviously, this is their Iris version of the original Le Male DNA. I think this one is masterful. I know Elixir is the latest and kind of has gotten a lot of the praise recently, and I think it's deserved. But can't deny that this one, I like the powdery aspect of it, a little bit more classy than Elixir is. I love the iris in here. You do have the lavender. I think the mint is kind of turned down in this and kind of replaced more so with cardamom. So this one has a little bit more of a spicy feel to it. All I know is the times I've worn this, it packs a punch. It's very strong projection, very strong sillage, as is the case with a number of the Le Male fragrances, or should I say the fragrance flankers. Anyway, if you wanted to wear this fragrance in an environment where you don't want to be too overbearing, I think one spray of this would do. I would probably spray this one under my shirt on my chest because the projection on this one is very, very nice. Once again, from Jean-Paul Gaultier, this is Male Le Parfum. Okay, and the final fragrance on this list from the house of Dior, this is Sauvage Elixir. Get it straight. Dior Sauvage Elixir. This shouldn't be a surprise if you're used to this, or should I say know about this fragrance. I think most people have at least gotten their nose on this to this point. The hype has certainly died down, and I think it should because it's been out a while now. But Sauvage Elixir, obviously a very, very strong fragrance. Tons of projection, tons of sillage, which is really what you get from all the Sauvage fragrances. So I would say in certain scenarios where you don't want your fragrance to be too strong, any of the Sauvages, probably one spray would be good, if not more than 2. But I would say with this one in particular, I would go with 1 because this is definitely the spiciest iteration. And if someone has any kind of sensitivities to the spice that's in this one spray is gonna help, mitigate that. I know from my work environment, a fragrance like this, I would not want to come off too overbearing. It could cause problems, so to speak. So one spray of this, maybe under the shirt. I have done it on the back of my neck at work before. That seemed to do fine, but to be fair, that was at the height of the C19 and everybody had on masks, so there was a little bit of a buffer. But nowadays, I'd probably just go one spray under the shirt. So once again, from the house of Dior, this is Sauvage Elixir. All right, and we've made it to the end of the list for this video. Feel free to leave some comments down below. What is a fragrance you like to wear that you know is very, very strong, but in a certain environment, you don't want to come off too strong with it, so it's one spray approved for you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Thank you guys for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you. Remember to be well and smell well, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.